Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome everybody to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by the hockeythinktank.com, a website for all players, parents, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. We bring on Brian Bonin, who absolutely lived the Minnesota hockey dream, grew up in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, played his high school hockey there, where he won Mr. Hockey, the most prestigious high school hockey award in the state, before going on to the University of Minnesota, playing for the Golden Gophers, where his senior year he won the Hobey Baker Award as the top player in college hockey. He then went on to play for the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Minnesota Wild in the NHL. Also had a lengthy pro career, played over in Europe. And now he is working for one of my favorite companies in Crossbar. And guys, this was an unbelievable conversation that is going to have such a huge impact on the hockey world. One of my favorites that we've done. But before we do get over to Brian, let's bring on another one of my favorite guys in the world, one Jeffrey J. Who Tat Man himself, Lavecchio. Vex, what's going on today?
Not much, brother man. Just having a great week here. Can't lie. Really getting down to the nitty gritty of the off season here. Got junior guys starting to leave here. Some college guys have left. Pro guys have about another month and a few weeks here, depending on if they're NHL, AHL, Coast. European pros have left. Actually, during the podcast, somebody we've had on the podcast, Travis Turnbull, had a great text from him. He's 38, starting his, I think this is his 16th or 17th year pro, and he just did the most pull-ups and testing he's ever done to start a season. So during during the podcast, he texted me. I think he said something to the likes of, "Man, this prehab shit really works." My text back was like, "Yeah, I know. That's why we've been doing it forever, and why I'm glad you really are paying." You know, it's funny. All these guys get older, and they start paying more and more attention to the warm-ups as they get older, and they all say, McKinnis said the same thing, "Man, like I really got to do warm-ups now. I can't just show up to the rink." And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I know. Like this is why we've been doing this for the last 10 years." But that was a cool text to get, and just excited to finish out another great off season here over this last month with the boys.
Yeah, man. It's got to be a cool time of year for you. It's almost like the dad, the father, like opening the doors and letting their kids out into the real world. The father.
Yeah, it's
that movie.
And you're friends with us.
Yes.
Well, two movies actually. Home Alone 2 and Tommy Boy. La 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 la.
Luke.
That's so good. Yeah, dude, it is. It's always so much fun, when guys go to camps and make teams or have good training camps and preseason. And I feel so good. It's the best I've ever felt. Like, that's why I do what I do. It's always great to get those text messages.
Love it, man. Yeah, it is cool. Like as a coach too, I think the best texts are the best emails that you get. And I've gotten quite a few of these, is like, just guys like 2 or 3 years later, they might have had like a epiphany on something, or they're talking with their buddies or whatever. And they're like, man, and they just send you like a thank you text, or thanks for all you did for me, whatever it may be. Those are cool, because in the moment as you're coaching, sometimes some of that stuff can get like, you're so grinding, you're so in the moment as a player and as a coach, everybody, like life's just a grind. And then when you get a chance to reflect at some point later in life, that means a lot. Those texts are amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was working with Kyle McClellan this morning, one of my guys I've had for maybe 5 or 6 years now, and we got to get him on the podcast. I was going to text him after today and ask him to come on, because he won the Mike Richter Award. He won the goalie of the year, best goalie of college hockey, and we were talking in between sled death day that he was doing this morning with me, which he just absolutely loves. Let me tell you, talking about how when you're younger, like you don't you don't always listen to like all the little details, no matter how much coaches are telling you, like, hey, this is really important. You really got to focus on this stuff from now until you're done playing. And we were specifically talking about at the junior age. And he's like, like, I remember you telling me this stuff. And like, I could get by on my talent or whatever. And then one day I couldn't, and I had to focus on all these little things. And, I wish everybody would listen. And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, Kyle, that's why we do our podcast. That's why, I think that mentorship from an older guy to a younger player is so freaking valuable. And that's why you guys are going to absolutely love today's podcast, because that's what we do. Segue.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, this podcast was unreal, man. Like Brian, obviously, you list off his accomplishments: Mr. Hockey, Hobey Baker, played at Minnesota, played for the Wild. Like he literally lived every Minnesota kid's dream, and now you know why. And now you know why when he talks about his journey, but then just like who he is and what he's about and his character, like you understand like that. The kids listen to this, like listen to Brian, like these are successful people. We bring a lot of successful people onto our podcast, and it's a lot of the same things that we talk about. And he, yeah, man, like he was awesome. Like literally coming off that call was just like, I feel better. Like I feel motivated. I feel better. I feel like I'm a better person now, and I think that's going to come out big time on this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you're listing off his accomplishments to start the call, and I was like, oh, they just kept getting bigger and bigger and better. That's why we bring on the heavy hitters for you guys to learn from.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other thing too, and I don't want to talk too much on this because I want to get over this conversation, but like I feel like I'm on a mission right now to bring community back to hockey. The community-based model is proven time and time again to create numbers. So you talk about retention and growth, but also when we're talking about elite hockey players per capita, like the community-based model is the best at producing those as well. And I understand that the youth hockey landscape has moved a lot away from that community model. But what I would like challenge everybody here, even in areas of the country where it is very kind of like club oriented, almost like business oriented, if you want to call it that, like try to find a way to create community in the place that you're at. Find a way to create community in the place that you're at, because when you have a community feel, it means a little bit more. You're playing a little bit more for the person next to you. You're playing a little bit more for something greater than yourself. And when I think about development, the more and more conversations that we have with the elite of the elite hockey people in our world, the more that stuff matters. We live in a day and age where the name on the back of the jersey has become, or is becoming, depending on where you are, way more important than the thing in the front of the jersey. But like when you think about recruiting and talent and all this kind of stuff, like coaches and scouts crave people that understand the value of the logo on the front of the jersey. They crave kids with a better understanding of what it means to win and how to be a good teammate. And so with that, the model that we have right now, it doesn't necessarily highlight that and develop that as much in players. Sure, you're going to have coaches and people that do a really good job of that. So I don't want to diminish that. But like when you have community, that kind of stuff is developed so much more. And not only is that going to make you a better hockey player, but it's going to equip you with the skills and the perspective and the knowledge and the understanding of what it means to be successful in life, to be a part of a team, to be a part of a family. And so I would just challenge people to think about that. How can we create community, even if it's not a community-based thing that we're in? Create that,
Can I get an amen? Love everything you just said, man.
Thanks, Max.
I mean, it's what I'm trying to do with all these. This year I'm in charge of 3 different training centers for 3 different organizations, totaling probably 2,500 players, maybe closer to 3,000. And at every rink, I'm doing a monthly speech for the entire organization, player, parents, and coaches. And one of the reasons is to get them all in the same room talking to each other, get them all knowing each other, get them all talking about different ways we can all make each other better. You know, I want to hold community events for like parents workouts. And it's like, so different parents in the organization can get together in a no pressure, not worried about their kid on the ice and everybody's crazy, like things like that. I would love to start doing like barbecues at the gym on separate weekends and just come in and, you know, see where your kids are getting better. And let's talk about life, not so much just hockey, and, you know, making it more of like a community thing versus just like me, I, my kid type of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Well, we do talk a lot about that on this podcast. So before we do get over to Brian, let's thank some people that we love to thank every week. First, icehockeysystems.com, our title sponsor. These guys are the best. Go to icehockeysystems.com. It will make you a better coach. It'll make you a better hockey parent. Thousands of drills, whiteboard explanation from high-level hockey people. We have partnered with them to do an associations platform where you can get this for every single coach and every single parent in your organization. And this is such a value add. The ability to go in as a coach. They have a functionality where you can draw your drills online, send them out to your players before practice. It's just an awesome thing. So go to icehockeysystems.com, look up the associations platform today. Jeffrey.
I want to thank Train Heroic. Train Heroic is the amazing app that allows me to train all of these teams and organizations across the world. Working with USHL teams, NUL teams, EHL, USPHL, all the HLs, all right, AAA teams, AA teams, older teams, you know, college teams, any team in season. If you guys want workouts, I had somebody reach out to me via my website, gmbm.com. Check it out. The other day, asking to work with a couple of their youth teams, just simple at-home workouts. I can facilitate anything that you guys want to help your players exercise, train, whatever their age, at-home skill drills. Please reach out to me. You can go to gmbm.com and hit me up, or my Instagram. But Train Heroic has allowed me to do this and do it in such an easy and clean way. It's definitely allowed me to help thousands upon thousands of players. I looked the other day because an app asked me, and I've had 28,000 people use some form of my online training. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. All right. This is all I do with my life. I love helping people, mainly with the gym and mindset and stuff like that. And I also offer monthly calls with every team that works with me online. So if you have any questions at all, reach out to me. Cannot thank Train Heroic enough for allowing me to do this. Also want to thank Cure Nutrition CBD company I'm with. I have tons of people reach out to me that listen to the podcast about this as well. I've been taking CBD multiple times a day, every single day since my last year playing the 2017-2018 season. You guys who listen to the show regularly know that I've had 14 concussions diagnosed. And I do a lot. I put my body through the ringer every single day with a physically demanding job and just how I live my life with a lot of passion and energy, sometimes too much. And CBD definitely helps my brain function and allows my body to recover through the ringer that I put it through every day. So if you have any questions at all on CBD, how it works, when to take it, why it works, all that stuff, please reach out to me or go to curenutrition.com, use my discount code GMBM and save that money.
Save that money. And also want to thank Crossbar. Crossbar is an unbelievable value add to any youth hockey organization. And it's a website solution to manage and run your youth club. And so what do they have? They have game-changing things like registration setup in minutes for your season, or for even little things like lessons or drop-ins. Huge value add to the family, streamlines everything. It's got a club scheduler, 5-star mobile app so you can communicate with your team or communicate with your organization. Really good financial tools and reporting. Really awesome volunteer management type systems, facility rink management type systems. Guys, this is like an absolute game changer. And Brian is obviously a part of Crossbar, and wanted to get him on to tell his story and talk a little bit about that as well. But I know youth hockey directors out there that have switched from whatever website platform they were using to Crossbar, and every single one of them, it's been like A+, 10 out of 10. So go to crossbar.org and learn a little bit more. Awesome company. Also, we want to thank Helios Hockey. Unbelievable product. It is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pad that gives you real-time data real-time feedback on your play and on your hockey development. It is a huge value add. It can help you to look at things like your stride mechanics. It also gives you a bit of a hustle score. This is something that the kids absolutely love because it goes when you are in motion. And so there's also a leaderboard so you can compare yourself with what you're doing with other people all around the world. And then the absolute game changer for this is it pairs up with your video, whether it's Live Barn, whether it's an iPhone, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a camera, whatever it may be, and you have your shifts cut up for you in a game right after the game on your device. Absolute game changer. No more press and fast forward. No more press and rewind. Having the ability to just get that right after. I wish I would have had that as a kid, although I would have probably not done anything else. I probably would have just watched my shifts all day, every day. Either way, go to helioshockey.com and use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, and you will get a 20% discount on your pro annual or pro 24-month subscriptions, or go to helioshockey.com/teams for information about how you can get this for your entire team. Lastly, we want to thank everybody out there who listens to us and continues to support what we do. If you can, to help us out, if you can interact with our stuff on social media, every like, every comment, every download of our podcast, every rating of our podcast, every follow and subscribe to the podcast, it helps us to get the word out there more, because when people search for a hockey podcast, our name will show up a little bit more. And so we really appreciate if you guys can provide that with any feedback. Also, any feedback that you have for us that can make us better, provide more value, provide more perspective to you on your journey in this hockey world. We would just really appreciate that. So thank you so much, all of you who continue to support what we do. Without further ado, guys, you are going to absolutely love this conversation. It is legitimately one of my favorite that we have done. Without further ado, here we go with Brian Bonin. Bet on the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Mental health should be something that we prioritize in our lives that are often overscheduled, intense, and can be chaotic and stressful. BetterHelp is an awesome resource to really prioritize mental health and help us be the best versions of who we want to be. We are huge believers in therapy and have talked about it multiple times on our podcast. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and really designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. We are so excited to have on this episode of the podcast. He's up in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Beautiful at this time of the year. Brian Bonin. Brian, how you doing today?
Doing well. Actually having a nice Minnesota summer day. Almost mid-August. Can't believe how it's getting a little chilly at night.
I know. Time flies, especially in Minnesota summer. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm so pumped to have you on the podcast and for so many different reasons. But the first one that I want to ask you, just to introduce you to all of our listeners here, I feel like you've lived the Minnesota hockey dream. We're talking about growing up in Minnesota, playing high school hockey, winning Mr. Hockey, going to the University of Minnesota, playing for the Gophers, winning the Hobey Baker, and then getting the chance to play for the Minnesota Wild in the NHL. I can't really imagine a script that much better. I'm sure there's been a lot of ups and downs and hardship along the way, but that's a pretty cool story. But, thinking about your childhood and growing up in Minnesota, first question we always ask our people that we have on is, how'd you fall in love with the game? What was it that brought you to the game of hockey?
Yeah, great question. And if we go way, way back, currently live about 3 blocks from where I grew up. And my father played a little hockey. He wasn't great. He's passed on. He'd laugh if I said that, but I think he was the first to say he wasn't all that great. But loved the game. Grew up in Minnesota, hard not to love hockey. I take that even a step back to say, you gotta know how to ice skate. We got ponds and lakes everywhere. It's a thrill. It's kind of like riding a bike. There's just something about it. You put on a pair of skates and this idea that you can move around. It's a thrill. And I don't care how cold it is. If you're out there skating, you're sweating and taking off layers and you got bonfires and you have that Minnesota way of life. And so it just somewhat gets in your blood. My dad put a small rink in the side yard. I mean, like really small. And rumor was that I didn't want to do it. Didn't look like fun, hurt my feet. All of a sudden a couple friends came over and had their skates and knew how to skate. I was like, well, I'm not going to sit here on the side. I'm going to go out there and join him. And the rest is history. So he built a rink every year. I've carried that on in my yards as well for my 3 boys. And I think it was really just a matter of, and I played all sports, but just loving this game. I think putting on those pair of skates, slapping a puck around. You winners, you need something to do. And then maybe it's partly that I was halfway decent at it. I don't know. Sometimes things come easy to you. You maybe go that direction. I say that because as we get a little deeper into this, 4 seasons playing for 8 sports, 2 at a time, being a kid in a neighborhood, life was a little different back then. So, nowadays picking and I don't know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, having to think about that. I just never had to think about it. And I had a gift. I worked hard, but just naturally was pretty good at it. So I think the love came from outdoors, boot hockey, street hockey, and then those 2-3 months in the winter where my dad's flooding the rink and all my friends are coming over.
I love that. I wish I grew up in Minnesota. Don't get me wrong. I love growing up in Chicago, but that just sounds like absolute bliss to me. Well, let me ask you this, Brian, because you mentioned the fact that things are just not like that anymore. The youth sports and the way that everything is structured is so incredibly different. And you have 3 boys you mentioned coming up too. How do you, understanding, because I know a lot of parents really struggle with this. They really struggle with, hey, we want our kids to play multiple sports, but the way that the youth sports kind of structure is right now doesn't allow for that very often. They want their kids to fall in love with the game naturally, the way that you did on the ponds, but it's hard for people nowadays. As a hockey parent, as you have 3 boys, how do you kind of juxtapose that? How have you kind of thought about your parenting and wanting your kids to fall in love with, whether it was hockey or anything else, but particularly hockey? How have you thought about that, and what have you kind of done to kind of understand what you had and known that was a big part of why you were so great at what you did and fell in love with it, and wanting you that same thing for your kids, but it's just completely different nowadays?
It is. The community here in White Bear Lake, pretty unique in the sense, I think we have 5 rinks, within 2-3 miles. So we have a lot of ice. That helps. People put up rinks. It's kind of a long-standing, one of the bigger associations, but long-standing associations in Minnesota. So, you grow up here, you just hear about hockey. We have great participation in all sports, but hockey is one of those that people want to play in White Bear Lake. So that helps having ice. My perspective, though, was, again, this is one of the 4 seasons. I have no idea if you're going to be any good at it or not. The amount of time and effort today to be good, it doesn't matter what you want to be. you're going to have a gift, and then you're going to have to work really, really hard and get a little lucky. So I kind of took it as how do I know which direction the boys are going to go or not? And in my experience, for as successful as I've been or was, I did see a lot of great players with me who fell off before I did, and then I fell off at some point as well. And just seeing like how hard that was, don't lock yourself into a single sport. The players I played with were just all around athletes, so I wanted my boys to do that as well. And then wasn't willing to give in on the family side of things. Like, we'll participate in hockey during hockey season, soccer in soccer season, golf in golf season. I wanted them to make sure they were doing others because the seasons are long and they come up quick. I want kids who want to play hockey because they love it. And I'm not sure right now we know how many kids love it. They say they love it, or they might be really good because they're young and the competition hasn't gotten there yet. So you assume they love it. But do they? Because as you go now, man, you hit high school. Wow. They're going all day, every day, all year just to keep up. And in the world of hockey, you got to be a good skater. That's hard to do in itself. So we're throwing them into that fire. And I'm seeing some fallout a little bit at that high school too, where kids have played, they've been on teams, they all of a sudden get cut. Like what's going on? There's a lot of good players. And you're not playing anymore against really Minnesota and maybe Massachusetts, Michigan, if you're in the college ranks. We always know we had Canada. Now you're playing against the world. You literally are playing against the world. I got a buddy from Switzerland where I ended up playing, and his son's coming over to play here in Minnesota next year in the NA. I mean, we are global now. So there are a lot of really good hockey players. Didn't want to pigeonhole the boys, early on that hockey was going to be their deal. Injuries, cost. And we had 3 kids, so I wanted to keep the family, core together. So hockey for hockey season, down the road, when you can commit because you love it, we'll talk about whether we invest a couple more dollars.
Absolutely love that. That's something that we talked about recently on the podcast too, just dealing with, kids who are playing multiple sports, or they're going to take the spring off. The season just ended. It just ended. And now we're starting spring league the next week. And some teams are like, you've got to be here for spring league. And it's like, what do you mean you've got to be here? The season is over. Yeah. If kids want to play spring, like, whatever. But like, if they don't, they shouldn't be an outcast from the hockey community because they're playing another sport, or they want to focus on school, or they want to focus on their family, or being a freaking teenager. Like, and Toph and I completely believe in multi-sport athletes up until, everybody's different. Maybe it's 15, 16, maybe it's 18 if you're in Minnesota and you have a great model where you're kind of allowed to play other sports, where the AAA model here in St. Louis, you really can't because it's a year-round thing now, which kind of disgusts me. But I also wanted to ask you a question too, because we have you're obviously a hockey dad. We're talking about that. You played in the NHL. You said that your dad wasn't very good, and he would have said that. We have a ton of parents that listen to this show for that exact reason. Their kid is already better than them at 9 years old. Dad can't really skate. No shame. Not a problem with that. So what were some things that your dad, you think, did well when you look back? He wasn't very good. You wind up, you Toph read off your hockey DB there, and it's unbelievable. Every Minnesota kid's dream. So what are some things that you look back and you're like, wow, my dad wasn't great at hockey, but I was. And, what did he do that you could give some advice to all the dads and moms listening here?
Well, I appreciate that question, because I think having that experience, and there's a lot of players out there that have that experience that are now fathers, it's hard to not want certain things for your children. You want to just say yes. You don't want to say no. You're afraid they're going to miss out on something. They're really good at selling you that they're going to miss out on something, that next team, that next tournament. So what my dad, I think, did really, really well is he kept me at the level I was at. I can remember as a squirt locally here in Minnesota, some of the programs have changed, the demographics have changed, but locally there's a couple teams that have merged. And as a kid, Mounds View, Irondale, North St. Paul, and Tartan were the 4 teams in my district. That's all we played as a squirt that we cared about. We'd go to other games sometimes because it was so close, like, because we're in first place and they're in second. We got to play someone next week. But he balanced it. We had less ice time. So we would do those things. I wasn't looking at peewees. I wasn't looking at bantams. My dad was really, really good at that. And I was good. So when I think back to how hard that might have been for him, he did a pretty good job. I think his perspective wasn't skewed. It might have got skewed later, but he was really good at that. Then as a peewee, he was still my coach. And he so wanted to like make it to the state tournament, but there was no talk about being a Bantam. Didn't really go to high school games. Very few Gopher games, very few Minnesota North Star games. We'd go to some. I loved hockey cards, things like that. Then I get to Bantams, new coach, no talk about high school. As an 8th grader, for sure. And as a 9th grader, rumor is I could have played. But there wasn't even a question that I was going to just play Bantams. And I would say today, the equivalent is don't be in a hurry. I just had the Hobey last week with Macklin Celebrini. There's one of those that's ready at 17 to do what he did. Or maybe when I was a freshman and Paul Correa, who got 100 points as a freshman. There's very, very few of those. Don't be in a hurry. Playing with the better players does not help you. It doesn't. It could, but it very likely will not. So he was good at that. Then I get to high school, and I had, as a sophomore, I led the team in scoring. I was still pretty good. I think the rumor might have been that I'm going to get a full ride somewhere. I'm just that good already. I had no clue. No clue. As a junior and senior, it was like, I don't know, where are my friends going? Where do I want to go? I'll take a couple visits. My dad was just really, really good at that. And he then on the backside said, Brian, like, if you love this game, here's how you could get better. And like, well, Dad, I keep passing to these guys and they can't put it in the net. He's like, well, go get it then. Do it again. Today, people are going to whine about who they're playing with. They're going to whine about the team's not good enough. They're going to whine and leave the team. My dad over and over, go get the puck. You pass it to the guy. Is he going to score? Well, he's probably not going to score. Well, then you better be ready to go get the puck again. Keep doing it.
What I hear there is like kind of be where your feet are. Be where your feet are. So many players today are like, well, I'm not playing right now, so that means I'm not going to make the team next year. It's like it's the first week of practice, Johnny. Chill out, all right? And I think a lot of that might be coming from their parents. And I love that because, you can't get everything out of the experience today, right now. You can't get everything out of practice this week if you're only – and this is something that I talk to junior players a lot about, who it's their first year of juniors. Topher and I always talk about, at least for both him and I, the hardest jump for me wasn't college to the AHL or the AHL to NHL preseason or this to that. For me, it was midget to junior was the hardest jump for me. I still think talking to most players, and I train hundreds of players in person every year and thousands online, not a big deal. The biggest jump that everybody says is that first year juniors, you've probably never been healthy scratch before. And you go there and you have that. And during the week, the players are like, oh my God. And this was me, my first year. I'm so nervous. Am I going to play on the weekend? I'm thinking about that on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So instead of me just focusing on getting better on Monday, having the best workout after practice I can, then repeating on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then every week I'm getting better and better and better. So every week I'm going to have more and more chance to play in the games on the weekend. I wasn't where my feet were. I was trying to live in the future. And that sounds like that was something your dad imparted on you. And I hope the parents listen to this. If you're on the fourth line today, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be on the fourth line next week. If you get better today, tomorrow, and the next day, you have to focus on where your feet are. What can I do today to squeeze everything I can out of development today, and then repeat that cycle every single day. And that's how you get to be a better player tomorrow, in a month, in a year, in 3 years. Stop worrying about the next thing and think about and be present today. I love that.
Yeah, the journey. I mean, so often it's the journey. We as human beings miss that. The journey is what's fun. I mean, winning the Stanley Cup, winning a championship, the next day kind of sucks because you had that journey. You're winning it. You're in it. And when you're done, you're like, well, wait a sec. We got to get together to celebrate. And well, no, we're done now. You forget that it's inevitable that we're kind of in a hurry, but you got to be so careful when your opportunity comes. Are you mature enough to deal with that? Have you been around enough? You have the experience. Wisdom is experience. It's the ability to go through and get sat, or watch your partner or buddy get sat, or watch somebody get a new opportunity and then the next guy screws it up too. And like seeing how that works is because you're right. Often they come from a place of privilege where you played a ton. You were one of the better players. Yeah, now we're on a group of a lot of better players, and the coach is not trying to lose. He's playing the guys he thinks are going to help him win. So pay attention. Well, that doesn't happen for most people at 14, 15, 18. But there takes some maturity in that. So yeah, don't be in a hurry to go play with the men.
That is very true. That is very, very true. And I think just again, like the whole kind of like structure model of youth, I'm not even gonna say youth hockey, but youth sports, it's hard for a lot of people not to look at the end, and that's top of mind when really when all you focus is on the end, you forget about today. And today is the only thing that you have to make you better. And I do feel like, Minnesota in a way has been a little bit shielded from a lot of that, because the community model still is prevalent. And it's funny, like you look at all the different models around the world, which are the most successful in not only producing high level talent, but in retention and grassroots growth and more participants. Like, it's the community based stuff. And so how much of that do you think contributes to the success of Minnesota hockey, still being able to have a little bit of that be where your feet are? We're playing for our town. We're playing for our community. It's funny. We just had, I don't remember if I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but last week I'm in Chicago here, and the Blackhawks put together a little bit of a summit where they brought in a bunch of youth hockey directors and presidents to kind of talk about the state of hockey. And it's, very, one of the comments that I made was, when I was growing up, every team had a town name before it. I played for the Glenview Stars. Our rivals were the Deerfield Falcons or the Rolling Meadows Chargers. And now every team is such and such hockey club. We're the, whatever hockey club, like the town names. I'm like, that's a problem, guys. Now it's a little bit different because the rink situation, not every town has a public rink, so there is some of that, but the community just feel of hockey in our area has it's gone bye-bye for the most part. And so, like, in your experience, both as a player growing up in it and then having your boys come up in that community model, like, how important is community to the development of our players? How important is community to making sure that we're continuing to grow the game from the grassroots level? And how important is community to even having more elite players at the end of the day, that are coming out of your state?
Well, I like the community model. Grew up in it. We had some summer, trainings, teams. Team Minnesota popped up when I was, Pee Wee or Bantam. One of the first like AAA programs here in
Minnesota. The Blades.
Yeah. So, I was like, well, wait a sec. That can be a compliment to the season because we're kind of creating all-star teams, so to speak. And it's good to have other teams. It's good to have other opportunities. The uniqueness of the community model is you're playing with your buddies that you go to school with, that you grow up playing baseball with, soccer, all of the other sports. So you're like, there's something about that, I think, that's unique, and it teaches you something. As my job in hockey, because I was good at these roles, this is what I'm going to do and how I'm going to play and what the expectation was. Playing soccer, the head coach of my boys' soccer team in high school was the goalie in youth hockey that I played against, but he was a center mid, great soccer player. And I played on the defensive side in soccer. So like all that cross training, all that, but I learned too of like how to be a teammate in a different way. And yet we're playing against each other in soccer and in hockey. And so everyone knows on the team who these guys are, and we don't like them. But then we in the summer play on the same team together on a AAA team. So you got a bit of both. So I thought the model was actually going in a direction that would be good, but it's getting taken over a bit in Minnesota too, because the second somebody doesn't like how they're being treated in the community, they go either create another team, or now people are moving schools.
Yeah.
Like you're leaving as your junior, senior year, like the time where you're with your best buddies all the way up, people are leaving either to play juniors or they leave schools. So the pressure again, and I think that's the parents. I really do. It's hard. I know, but man, like again, what's your hurry? Well, I don't know. We got to get to juniors. You're 16, 17 years old. Go score 30 goals in the Minnesota State High School League, please. Then we can talk about whether you need to go somewhere. I don't get it. I kind of just don't get it. But the pressure's there, expectations there. Hey, we're all in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, with that, like, talk about your high school experience playing in Minnesota. You know, everybody talks about the state tournament. Everybody talks about the rivalries, and it's funny. Like, Vex and I talked about this before. Like, you know, as a former college coach, a big part of my job was recruiting. Like, one of the things at that level, when you talk about recruiting and scouting, that we feel like is missing from a lot of players is just like a nasty compete level, just like a swagger compete type thing. And I would venture, maybe this is a long-winded, but like I would venture a guess to say that the lack of the community model actually leads to a lack in competitiveness, because you're not playing those big rivalry games. Like you talked about, like, I'm playing you in soccer and I'm playing you in hockey and I hate you. Like, you're from the next town. And so like when you don't have those rivalries and you don't have those games that mean something, you're not really building competitiveness in people, because every game is just another game, and every game is not necessarily for the team. It's just like, so I can get to the next level type stuff. And that, I mean, you're seeing that from the youth ages, like youngest of ages all the way up. But talk about your, your experience playing in high school in Minnesota, because that's what so many people love to talk about.
Yeah, it's pretty unique here in Minnesota, that model. I mean, it goes way back. So I'm on the east side, but like St. Paul Johnson with Herb Brooks, and, you know, name after name of players that moved on to the college and pro ranks. Next door, St. Paul Harding, Paul Holmgren. North St. Paul would be a Brett Hedekin. I mean, so growing up and just knowing this side, knowing there was like this rivalry and you just didn't like the other community. As you make it then to high school, you played against some of these guys, a couple private schools. So you can't wait. And the rinks are full. The rinks were full. We'd have, double headers and it'd be jam packed. So when you're playing in front of, 4,000 of the community, your classmates, that is a thrill. If you've ever been or had the opportunity to come to Minnesota for like a section final game before the state tournament, those games are even better than the state tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, people are hanging from the rafters. They are not happy with each other. So that's a unique experience.
It is electric.
Yeah. So is college. So, I've had some thrilling opportunities out there, but this is unique when you're at that age. And so it always breaks my heart a little bit when I see guys move around, like just to get to the state tournament or to get on a great line or to, maybe we can go way back where guys are on teams that weren't that great, but they brought them to the state tournament somehow, some way. And I found it was more fun to lose with this group of guys than it was to win with maybe a group you don't care for. So there's a bit of that. And then people are moving around now and they lose anyways. So you got to be a little bit careful what you're wishing for there. But that ultimate opportunity to play in the old days, the St. Paul Civic Center, clear boards. I mean, that place was like where everyone wanted to be. It's a whole week kind of basically out of school. Everyone's coming down to the big show. So I missed that a little bit because the X is a great spot, but it was really unique. In grade school, we'd have a TV in the lunchroom only for the week of the state hockey tournament. You'd be watching.
Oh, no way.
Oh, it was awesome. It was special. And I can go back, like what I remember as a kid, Hibbing, Minnesota, way up on the Iron Range. They got this like sweet Blue Jackets, Hibbing Blue Jackets. I mean, it's fantastic to go back. War Road, Roseau, the Broughtons, and by the way, as a kid up in Roseau, rinks open. You just go anytime you want all year. Like that was like God's country for the hockey player.
Yeah.
So cool.
My a good friend of mine, I played with him in pro, is Jay Hardwick, who's the head coach at War Road right now. And, just talking to him, same thing, the rink's open. And, it's cool when we're really big on mentorship too. And so when the rink's open, you get your midget players or your Bantam players, high school players out there with some of the younger players. And, sometimes you section off and you're kind of doing things just with your own age group, but then you'll get everybody together, play a little bit of a shinny game or do some stuff. And like that mentorship stuff is huge. And being able to do that. And again, being from Chicago, our kind of like, let's call it high school experience was like midget major hockey. It wasn't really juniors. I didn't even really know what juniors was. But like I knew when Tim Stapleton, we used to call him Buster, I knew who was like 3 years older than me when he was on the ice and I was in the rink. Like you lived to play like 18U hockey, you know, and say similar in like Minnesota, like you live to like be the guy that's going out for those section final games when everybody's going nuts. And man, there's like, you talk about, and man, every single person that I shouldn't say every single, because there are a few that slips through the cracks, but 95 to 99% of the people who I've played with or coached that have gone on to play the highest levels of hockey, what was the one consistency that they had? They loved to play hockey. It was a lifestyle to them. They couldn't get enough of it. And that's what we need to continue to help to create in our players. So for all the crazy parents out there, like, you know, like ask yourself if what I'm doing today is instilling a love for the game in my kid. Not is it going to make his skills better or her skills better? Not are they going to win a national championship or whatever? Is this going to instill a love and a passion for the game where they're going to want to do it more? When you want to do it more, you're going to work at it more. When you work at it more, you're going to have more intention. You're going to build the habits. You're going to be committed, which is what every great person in any walk of life has had. And so again, like going back to it, like, you've talked about the love of the game so much. Vex and I, we talk about it literally every podcast. Like that should be the singular sole goal for all of us adults if we want to create a better sport. And selfishly, if we want our kids to even play in the NHL, if that's your goal, that should be what you're thinking about too. You know, it's crazy.
Totally agree. I think there's an opportunity here too. Like at least in Minnesota, big rink, 3/4 rink, small rink, you know, to create somewhat of like a 3-season, you know, 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. Like everyone's playing different positions on the 4-on-4 and 3-on-3. Like we need you to be thinking about hockey in a totally different way. And who cares about mistakes? And because you get 5-on-5 and all of a sudden systems take over and everybody wants to win and so those more of a break instead of it staying, you know, defense, forward, whatever you're working on, to just let people, you know, enjoy a different part of the game. The whole shinny hockey or pond hockey that we had in Minnesota, those opportunities so that there's some off days where you can actually just be at the rink and enjoy a skate. Maybe it's a younger kid. Maybe you're just trying some things that are fun because there's days where you need to work. And if it's every day, I think it's real easy to just take a day off. Like, oh, I don't feel great today, so I'll take it off and then tomorrow. And that to me still was going to lead to some problems when, as you climb the ladder, there's just better and better players. And you're going to have that drive, that grit, that like, I got to figure out how to like get the puck in the corner against this guy and get out of here and love that.
Toph always talks about like how shinny hockey is where you learn to be creative on the ice and you try things. And, you know, I mean, I'll go back to your accolades that Toph displayed at the beginning of the episode. You won every accolade possible in the history of hockey, I think it sounds like, for a Minnesota hockey player. And he just said, you know, play in different positions and sometimes play defense, sometimes play offense. It's something we talk about on this podcast all the time. Like, I wish that, I don't know, maybe it's arbitrary to put like a level or an age, but like, I don't know. I think like before 13, coaches should be making forwards play defense, wingers play center, you know, other than goalie. I think that players should pretty much play every position because it'll just give you more perspective. You'll see the ice from different angles. And, oh, man, it really helps when my forward holds the forechecker up so I don't get murdered on the backboard. So like, I'm usually that guy who's just letting that forward go right past me. I just got murdered from behind. Okay, now I see why they want me to hold that guy up so the D-man doesn't get murdered. And then I get the puck sooner and in a better position. And all those things happen when you do these things that are maybe not as crazy structured for younger players, but you're still moving the needle and they're having fun and all these different things. And I mean, Toph is a massive, massive proponent. He's got one of the best hockey minds. He had the best vision on the ice. Like, it was so fun playing with a guy like Toph. And like, I grew up with Paul Stasny, so I played with him like all growing up and through juniors. And like, I know for sure, like a part of that is because Toph was just always having fun playing hockey, always shinny hockey and always in the basement having fun and a little bit less structure on top of the structured things he was doing. And I think that's a big reason why he saw the ice the way that he did. I love that.
Thanks,
well, and different personalities are certainly going to go different directions. So you want your kid to be this or this, what's the mix that makes them this kind of player? And well, part of it is just who they are. So you gotta just let them be who they are a bit. They'll find their direction. Coaches are pretty good at that. If you're going to force it, you're going to get yourself in a little bit of trouble as a parent. I think, now you're talking car ride home, car ride at the game, coach doesn't know what they're talking about. But at the same time, if you don't have some of those other seasons where you can, allow for kids to make these mistakes and, the old, I'm just a defenseman. Wait a second. That's just the position. When we have the puck, we're all on offense. When we don't have the puck, we're all on defense. That's 100% all the time. The question is how you think about the game in that way. As a D, what do you mean? They're going down 3-on-2. I know. So why aren't you thinking offense just in case something happens? You got to be thinking a little bit about that. So it's interesting sometimes when they pick that position thing, and it breaks my heart because I'm thinking, wait a sec. To be a better D, you got to know how to play forward. You just do. So how do we put people in those circumstances too, to give them a break where who cares about the score? Because so often, coaches care so much about the score. I think I was pretty good at that, where I would see certain talent and go, here's what I'm looking to get out of this player. I could teach them how to dump it in later or how to make the breakout pass later. But I want them to take some chances. So when they make the mistake, we next time go, that was 1 against 2 in front of our own net. Maybe you pass that one. But what we're going to ask at the end of the game when we're down 2-1, my best player goes back and gets the puck. I'm going to need him to beat somebody to get up the ice. I don't want him to pass it. I want him to beat somebody and then maybe make a play. So I need him to be able to make that play. And too often we're just like, well, let's try to win. Let's try to win. You're not going to beat good teams. You're just never going to beat good teams on a consistent basis. So build your team. You'll get some wins, some losses, understand who you're playing against, but manage all those players on your team.
And you're also helping them with their skills that they're going to need at the next level and the next level and the next level. There's a organization here in town in St. Louis at the AAA level. And I coached against them for 2 years, and all they would ever try to do is keep the game close, dump everything. Every time they get the puck, they got a guy at the red line who's tipping it in. They're going for 4. And I'm like, none of these kids are going to play juniors or the few that do maybe make juniors squeeze by. None of them are going past that because none of them know how to play hockey. All you're doing is trying to win games and keep the score close against the better teams because the parents and the coaches and the organization is worried about rankings instead of actually teaching these kids how to play hockey and to be ready and have the skills necessary and practiced at the next level. All they did, dump and chase, tip it in, go and get it, run around like dummies and try and murder people. And I have no problem with hitting. I'm fine with that. But when that's all you do, why are parents paying 20 G's a year to learn to dump, chase, tip it in? You're not teaching them anything. If they make mistakes and you lose, if they're getting better, isn't that the goal? Isn't that what every parent wants, them getting better so that they're, better for next year? That stuff drives me literally up a wall. It kills me.
Yeah, there's just so much pressure on winning for some reason, or maybe it's the reverse now. The pressure's there too as the coach. You're so afraid to lose.
Yeah,
you don't know what to do with that. Instead of being able to say, we're playing a crosstown rival who's undefeated. We're going to lose 10 rip.
Right.
Even if we play well, that's okay. We're peewees. I don't care. The question is, can we do some things today to get a little bit better or learn for the next games when we're playing like a 500 team? That's what we're looking at, and so the guys learn to deal with those circumstances instead of how do we keep it 3-0? Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap?
Drives me nuts.
Dude, it's crazy how people get caught up in that, if the team wins, then I, the coach, take all the credit. That's another thing that's driven me nuts. If we win, it's the players, and when we lose, it's probably me, the coach, not the reverse.
Idiots.
Vex, it's so funny. So Brian, we do these podcasts and we try to pick out 3 or 4 things, that our guests or ourselves say that'll help people, that we put on social media, give them a little bit of perspective. And I feel like we've got like 19 clips already for this one. So I appreciate your perspective. This is awesome. Yeah, there you go. And another thing, I want to shift gears a little bit because I really want to make sure we talk about this, because it's something that we get questions on a lot. And you go to University of Minnesota, you win the Hobey Baker your senior year. But like you didn't win the Hobey until your senior year. And I think we want results, we want everything right away. But one of the biggest lessons that we try to teach people through this podcast is like the journey, like you just talked about, the process, the journey, how important growth is, and like how important hitting adversity is, and how to get through that, learning how to build resilience, learning how to build mental toughness through some of the tough stuff. So I'd love to ask you just about your experience at the Gophers, being able to play for your hometown team, but particularly like what your journey and what you had to go through to ultimately earn the accolades at the end of the day that you did in your senior year. What was that journey like? Was it filled with adversity? Were there some ups and downs? Were there a lot of learning moments? What was your experience in your time there at Minnesota?
I love those stories. I'm glad you asked, because often we just assume, people's journeys aren't as bumpy as they typically are. So not a whole lot of adversity as a kid at the youth level. Injuries are a big part of becoming a pro. You turn 18, junior, whatever, it's kind of being a pro. You have to manage yourself as the business.
Sure.
So injuries, super tough. Didn't have many of those, maybe a concussion here or there. We weren't really counting those things back then. But had an injury as a senior that prevented me playing a couple of games, but rehab that, get to the U. I was really, again, my father did a good job here. I just wanted to like hang out for 4 years. I had no expectation. I was drafted by the Penguins, thought that was super cool, but also, am I going to play pro hockey? Like, no, why the hell would that happen? Like, you got to be like super good. So going there, knew all these players from playing against them. Thrilled kind of just knowing who was at University of Minnesota. And again, can I just contribute for 4 years? That'd be awesome. This would be a thrill of a lifetime. I'm getting free sticks, by the way. Got my name on them. Like, this is going to be freaking awesome. And hey, back to the love of the game sidebar. But like, my dad didn't buy me anything. I got sticks for Christmas. I didn't get any extra stuff. We didn't get extra apparel. We didn't get any of that stuff. So you loved the game because you loved the game. And that can be a distraction today now too, because you want to be on the AAA team. So it says AAA on my jacket. It's way more important than, I just like playing hockey. Like, who cares what team I'm on? So I played as a freshman. I think I ended up with like 30, 40 points. Thought I was decent. Knew other players. I was confident in that way, but wasn't having a ton of success in my own mind. And I'm not sure about the coaches, what they thought, like, am I going to be a good player or not for them for 4 years, but didn't make the World Junior roster, and was certainly a favorite probably going into the season that I would. So that hurt. I was pissed. And I know I was better than those players that they picked over me, but I was not happy about that. So going into my sophomore year, we had lost a couple players. This is when guys started leaving early. So we lost Doug Zamolik, Trent Klatt, then Darby Hendrickson and Craig Johnson left. So some openings came up, and I just basically was like, yeah, I'm going to take over. I could be a goal scorer here. And it went pretty well as a sophomore, but I still had so much to learn, and picked a couple more skills, couple more thoughts into my junior year. Had a good season, surrounded by great players. I got to give a lot of credit to the players I was playing with, but and then as a senior, had a great season, didn't get hurt, and played with a lot of great players. So I was very fortunate in that. I don't want to say it came easy. Yeah, there was some success there, but I think I worked hard. But I was always kind of knowing the guys around me were pretty damn good. I won the Hobey, but Jay Pandolfo was quite a player. BU was loaded. Michigan was loaded. St. Louis and Perrin were at Vermont. Cripes, I probably shouldn't have won that award. So knew that competition, but Yeah, it was bumpy. I mean, nothing handed to you. We get into those big games or summer teams. Like, I knew I had to keep working.
I haven't heard anyone say the word cripes in at least 10 years. And I feel like the last time I heard it was a Minnesota guy too. That is awesome.
Keep it going. I'd be glad to bring it up again.
I love it. I love it. It's great.
Oh man. Well, it's funny. Like you mentioned getting pissed off after not making World Juniors. I had a similar experience where it wasn't World Juniors, but it was 5 Nations as a U16. I felt like I had deserved. I hate that word deserved, but I felt like I had played well enough to make the team and didn't. And I can't tell you the fire that it freaking lit in me to make sure that never happened again. And I'm 5'4". I'm a small player, so I needed to have a little bit of that, little man syndrome, let's call it, and have a little bit of that crazy fire in me to be able to accomplish some of the things that I did. But I tell people I do a lot of team building. I do a lot of motivational talks for youth hockey players and teams. And basically what I tell them is that was a necessary part of my success, was getting kicked in the teeth and having something go not my way and it be not fair, like it was, because it wasn't fair. I should have been on that team by all metrics other than the fact that I'm, 5'4", and that's what the coach told me. We're going with a big team, and sorry, he actually told me that. But like getting that, you said it pissed me off, and it lit a fire that was never gonna happen again. And so I do feel like, we live in a day and age where it's really just easy not to put yourself out there and not quit for fear of failure and fear of judgment and fear of anything, because of all the pressure that's put on the kids nowadays from the youngest of ages. Like, would you put all of what you have into something if there was all that pressure? But like that resilience and that getting kicked in the teeth, it's a necessary part of the process. You have to go through that stuff. And it's better to go through that stuff when you're younger. So when it gets really meaningful and stuff that is really hard, we all think it's relative, right? Like even when we're younger, we think our heart is the hardest thing in the world, when in reality, you don't realize that until you get older. But like, can you talk about that a little bit? Just because I do feel like it's such an important thing for kids to learn and understand, like mental toughness, resilience. Like you don't get that stuff by things being easy. You don't get that stuff by things being handed to you. You don't get that stuff without the injuries and getting cut and losing your confidence and having to claw your way in tough situations to figure out what's inside of you and what's on the other side. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that World Junior story and how it potentially helped you to be a better person, be a better player down the road?
Yeah, I certainly was fired up for those next couple of games against those teams of my friends. So like Pat Mickish, guy I played at Michigan Tech, and we were good buddies. But then chip on my shoulder, I'm like, sorry, Pat, it's not your fault, but I'm going to prove that they made a mistake. Or so yeah, it is that necessary. It's necessary, and we don't want it. I mean, we're so protective of our kids, so we don't want it. I think there's this old school like Herb Brooks, where maybe he was a little too tough. I mean, that's a day and age where people didn't have much. So you could be tough, because I think people were more than willing like to be at the hockey rink and get yelled at by a coach than their dad at home, wants you to do chores around the house. So we've come a long way though to, I don't know if you can even say anything to kids nowadays without them being really sad or telling their parents, and the parents, backing them up instead of, thanks for saying that to my kid. So there's a balance in here, but as coaches, we should be sitting down with kids and saying, hey, I like you, I picked you, but there's going to be some goods and bads coming this year. And so I'm going to work with you on that. So I think we could do a better job as coaches. You got to get some buy-in from the parents though, because in the heat of the moment, they go whine to the parent. Now the parent's pissed. Now the kid's not listening. Whether it's sitting them, whether they get injured, whether they get cut, that conversation with a kid that gets cut, so he's on your team, of saying, hey, this could be a great opportunity. I need you to be like top line. You would have been third line on that team, playing, very little. So taking the opportunity to reinforce that, but hey, now there's going to be some more expectation on you. And so I don't know if we all do a good job of that as coaches. I didn't get a ton of feedback from my coaches. I wish I would have got a little bit more. I'm pretty old. So, and when I got to the pros, I can still remember first game at Madison Square Garden preseason. And, I'm on the Penguins. They're pretty good. And we got Eddie Johnson. We got Brian Trottier, a guy like I grew up, like, hey, what kind of system? He's like, I don't just go out and play. And I was not prepared for that. And part of it was, we're not here to tell you anything. You got to figure it out. So you got to figure it out, or you come to us to figure it out. But this is kind of on you. We're not here to babysit you, anymore at all. So I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. Getting cut World Juniors. Yeah, I wanted to have been on that team. So I had a chip on my shoulder, but that was like a lesson as a freshman. And I don't know if I learned enough lessons after that. I got called out as a sophomore. We were at Civic Center, clear boards before they got rid of it, played BU and lost on our home ice 4-1. I probably should have gotten an earful after that. I really should have. And again, an earful because we need you next year to be prepared when we're tied 3-3 going into the freaking third period and we lose it to BU again, 7-3. And I got to tell you, when I look back, I don't know how prepared I was for that third period either. Some of these, so it's those lessons like we don't want to learn them, but we got to learn them. That's tough in today's world. We're babying everybody. You can be whatever you want to be. And if it doesn't feel good, then don't do it. I mean, nobody wants to get on the line and skate, but if you don't do that, you can't play against the good teams. You'll be out of shape. You got to learn those lessons a long way. So a little bit of balance. I think today we got more coaches, more people who really do care and they can communicate well. Still just wondering how much the parents are getting in the way.
Well, I think, and Topher and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I think it's really topical with seasons right around the corner. Some of my guys already started practicing, which to me disgusts me. It's August 7th, and they already started practicing last week. I'm like, what happened to summer? Like, what? But you really, coaches, you got to get the parents in a room together with you as the season's starting and being like, look, I'm here to help your kids. Like, if I sit them, you got to trust me. It's for a reason. And when they come to you, don't baby them. Don't coddle them. Like, obviously, be their parents, be there for them, but don't tell them, oh, the coach is an idiot or you're better than Johnny and you should be on the power play. Because I think a lot of that is what has happened over the last maybe decade. And Toph and I have seen it quite a bit. You can jump in here if you have too, but we need the parents to be on the same side as the coach so that the same message is being reinforced that we need them and it's going to help them with their mentality. So instead of, oh, poor me, and then you're feeding into that, it's like, hey, hockey's hard. Life is hard. Things are going to come at you where maybe it's not the result you wanted. What are we going to do about it so that you get a better result next time? Let's figure that out. Okay. Like, yeah, that the world's not over. You had a bad day. I saw you weren't working as hard. Do you think you worked as hard as you could? Do you? Be honest with me. And have that type of conversation, not just jump immediately to it's the coach's fault. The coach is an idiot. Every other kid sucks. You're the best in the world, because that's not true. And that's not helping them.
Yeah, I've seen that a little bit here at the high school level. Some of the better programs, it's tough to get ice time. I've seen coaches kind of bail out of responsibility, and that being, you got to be in conversations with your players more. This is an opportunity to teach. The expectation is through the roof. These people have been skating their whole lives. They've been spending a ton of money. You want to be the coach. You owe it to them. If they abuse it, that's their problem. Then you don't have to meet with them, but you should be meeting on a regular basis. I mean, lessons like, listen, I picked you. I like you. Right now, I see you on my fourth line. That's just where you're at, okay? I think there's an opportunity for penalty kill maybe. I think there's an opportunity for this. If somebody gets hurt, you got to be ready. If you start playing well in practices and some guys falter a bit, you got to be ready. So let's work on that together, because, by the way, if you're not ready, you probably won't get a second chance. So starting to teach those lessons instead of, it's kind of uncomfortable having to talk to them, their parents, the kid doesn't respond well. Then teach the kid a lesson there too. Like, listen, you got to learn how to be a professional here. You think you like hockey? Well, let me tell you something. You want to go somewhere after this? They will not talk with you if you whine once. They'll just get rid of you. So take that opportunity. And I'm not seeing enough of that because we have a great opportunity there. We have a really great opportunity. And I think the kids will step up. I really do. I think the kids will step up then. You gotta talk to them about it and start bringing them along a little bit earlier. The expectation's there, though, in a much different way than I think it ever was. Where the parents are pretty damn involved, or they know the power play. How the hell aren't you doing this or that? I mean, oh my gosh.
And we're seeing that in the world outside of the rink now too. Kids and people just, like all these kids that get out of college and think, yeah, that's not enough money for me. Well, what have you done to earn more money? This is your first day at this job. Why do you think you should be making six figures? You've done nothing. And it's because they've been coddled. We used to use sports as a way to learn these lessons, and you kill what you eat. You make the place better. You grow into your role. You kill that. You get a bump in pay, and you do all these things. And everybody just wants everything handed to them. And it's just like, I'm sure we've all seen that meme, like, the strong times create weak men, and and it's this negative. It's good. It's too good. Now life's too easy. Now everything's handed to them. Now they just expect the world. It's like, no, you've got to earn it. And I learned all these lessons by not being good enough, and then people helping me figure out the things that I could do to get better, so that I play more, so that I make the next team, so that I get tougher and I'm not getting beat up in every fight, and all these things. And if I didn't have all these good people there to, when I faltered, to be like, hey, you're not good enough right now. You need to be doing this, this, and this. And then I went and freaking did it. And that's how I made it to the next level, and the next level, and the next level. We need more people like that, being honest with the kids, and then, helping them along that development path, but not giving it to them.
Dude, totally. I mean, we have kind of forgotten, because there is so much fame, money. I still remember Brad Maxwell, North Stars. He's like laying tile in the summer, playing for the North Stars. I mean, you had a different perspective then. So you're right. The opportunity here is to make young men and young women who enjoy the game of hockey, who might put their kids into the game of hockey someday, give back. I'm sorry, you love it, but you might not be great at it. That's a conversation to have along the way, because what we're going to teach you is some skills that will carry over into the real world, because you're running yourself as a business. But man, we got to teach those. Otherwise, you are going to show up and have an expectation. I didn't get prepared well enough there. I don't know if he's listening or not, but Brian Lawton was my first agent. And my take is he was maybe a little intimidated. He shouldn't have been. Brian, I apologize if you're listening to this, but he should have said to me, dude, you just won the Hobey. We were at the World Championships. You played okay. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh or not, but you are not ready to play in the NHL. So we got some stuff to work on. Do you want to or not? Because this is what it's going to take. Brian Bellows told me, he's like, dude, playing in the NHL isn't that hard. To be and excel in the NHL is really hard. So if you're like everybody else, they're just going to, move you through. So I was not prepared there. So I lived that experience. And I think, again, plenty of parents, coaches, they have some sort of experience somewhere in business. Drives me crazy. Some successful business person I know, and like they're letting their kids be lazy. And whatever, you're like, that's not how you built the business. You would fire that person. Why do you let your child do that?
Right.
Isn't it crazy?
I mean, that's like that good times creates, the hard times create strong men, and then the strong men create good times, and good times create weak men. And it's obviously just something in our DNA where we always have to remind ourselves, like, how did I get here? How do I stay here? How do I progress to the next level? Not, okay, I made it. I'm chilling. I'm comfortable. And that story reminds me of, I had a meeting after my sophomore year with the Sharks with Doug Wilson. And he said something, and I thought I understood it at the time, and I didn't. And looking back, I always think about this meeting I had because they were interested in signing me. And he said, it's not the first contract that's hard to get, really. It's the second and the third and the fourth. And at the time I was like, oh yeah, and then I become a pro a few years later. I'm like, that was a great conversation.
And I want to take it a step further too, Brian, like for all the kids that are listening right now, like you're sitting here telling us that like you wanted more feedback. You wanted to be coached more because it was going to make you better. And so many times, like kids, like they don't want to be coached. You know, they take it personally and they think it's a shot at their character or their ego or whatever it may be. When in reality, coaches, their job is to make you better. And the only way that they can do that is to give you feedback. And some of that feedback's not going to be very good because you're not perfect. And so like seek out coaching. Like the best players that I coached at the college level were the ones that like were all like, I didn't have to go get them to come watch video. They were the ones that came in. Like I talk about, you know, I was in Michigan, Adam Fantilli was there. Adam would break down Narsdor, our head coach, to go watch video with him every week. Every week. What can I do? What can I do? How can I be better? How can I be better? He's been blessed with a lot of gifts from God when it comes to being a hockey player. But at the end of the day, he's not a third overall draft pick if he doesn't have that mentality and he doesn't want to get better and he doesn't seek it out on his own because he knows that that's what's going to get him to the next level. So like, listen to Brian here in what he's saying. Like, you have to want to be coached. You have to want to be held accountable. You have to want somebody in your life to hold you to a higher standard than you have for yourself, because that's how you get better, and is being outside that comfort zone and having to find another level, find another gear that you didn't even know that you had. And so as you were saying that, I was just thinking like, man, I hope that kids take this out of what you're saying too. Want to be coached, seek that stuff out, seek coaches, seek mentors, seek people who have been in the seats that you want to be in, and help them to hold you accountable and help you to understand what you need to do to get into those seats, because it's so incredibly important.
Well, I could piggyback a little, all sorts of sayings out there that you can find on like mentoring, on coaching, on, one of those that I always maybe learned after the fact. If nobody's talking to you, you should be worried.
Yeah.
Because they don't care. And on the reverse side, I've tried to teach my kids this, and it's something you have to teach. Get out there, get uncomfortable, ask a question, ask for help, be respectful. Think about that. When someone comes to you and says, I'd like your help, we respond. Most people don't ask. Or they come up and go, what'd you give me a C for? Well, because you answered 5 of the 10 questions incorrectly. Like, don't disrespect me there. You know what I mean? Come and say, like, listen, I thought I did better. I'd like to do better. Would you help me? Would you? I mean, we jump at those situations in the world. So that's a lesson to parents, because you got to help your kids with that. It's intimidating to go to a coach who is already playing on the 4th line or just sat you, or coaches, you gotta respond well. You pick these players. I know you don't want to maybe pick all of them. You gotta go with that. If you picked them, you picked them for a reason. Give them an opportunity there. Put your arm around them. Tell them I picked you for these reasons, and then work with them. You don't like that part of it, then maybe you shouldn't be in coaching, because you're there to help them. And maybe it is a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, that the light goes on, they're working harder. That's to you, the coach that helped them 3 years ago.
Nothing
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely. And as you're kind of talking about this, Brian, just to kind of tie a bow on it, like so much of what you're talking about and so much of what we try to preach in our podcast is like all of these things that we're learning, all of these challenges that we have, all of this stuff is going to help us. Hockey's only going to be there for so long for everybody. Father Time is undefeated and we can only play to a certain extent. And I want to ask you, because you're working for a company now, Crossbar, that's like one of my favorite companies in the world. And our why, our mission in the hockey world is to make it a better place with what we do with this podcast and all the content we create and everything like that. And getting introduced to Crossbar and all the great things that you are doing, you're a big part of that company now. How has like what you've learned through everything that we've talked about in the hour that we've been here helped you in life after hockey? And if you can, like, talk a little bit about Crossbar and how that can potentially help people that are in the hockey world right now as well.
Well, appreciate the kind words. So I'd like to think, again, as a salesperson, part of a team, there's an expectation. You show up on time, you show up prepared. So I learned some great lessons through sport that do carry over. I'm not told what to do. You got to reach out. You got to take the initiative. You got to go and find the answer, ask a question. People are more than willing to help. And often you don't necessarily get the critique as early on as you'd like. So it's kind of smooth sailing. This is great. No, you got to have those skills that I think sports teaches. That's why a lot of people who've played sports, I think, are successful in the sales world. So it's allowed me, I think, to take relationships or get a little uncomfortable, get on the phone or send something via, the web to someone, whether it's social media or somewhere else, and stick your neck out there and being confident enough to, ask questions and explore and get interested in someone else's life and business. So a lot of the stuff I think is carried over in terms of the product. Yeah, I spent, several years in the software world, and this company, I think what the fellas have built here is a great tool for really any organization in the sporting world that wants to manage their players, teams, leagues. It's a necessary evil now where you got to sign up and make some payments to play this game of hockey or any other game. I think we have a lot of real creative ways to have you or help you put together teams, put together groups, and have different teams on the weekend, or create different teams, or mix those players around and push out those schedules, keep everybody notified as things are changing. They've done a really nice job with it.
Yeah, I feel like in youth hockey and being so inundated in it now with what we're doing with the Hockey Think Tank, like so many people in youth hockey are volunteers. And so many, whether you're a volunteer for a club or even if you're just a parent or even if you're just a coach, you have so many other things that are going on in your life where if there's products out there that can make your life a little bit easier and can help to streamline things and it's all kind of in one place, it's just like, I don't know, I'll go even as far as say it's going to help de-stress your life a little bit. But like, that's what I feel like, because in researching Crossbar, like a lot of what I see, like the organizations that I know that have it, they're like, it's game changer. And not just game changer, but like lifesaver, because it's allowed us to make things easier for people. And even if you think about it from like an operations standpoint, if you have a clunky process for registrations or payments or whatever, then as a hockey director or the president or whatever, you're going to be fielding emails all day, every day. And that's going to take away from you being a mom or being her dad or being a coach or whatever it is that you're doing. And yeah, it's just like, again, we're trying to make the hockey world a better place and trying to provide these avenues for, people just have a better experience in it. And I really feel like Crossbar is one of those things. And as you're working for the company, like, is that some feedback that you get too? It's just like, it's really just like a one-stop shop solution almost for like, that just makes youth hockey organizations better operationally.
Yeah. One-stop shop, better than any other option in the marketplace for a one-stop shop. I mean, we can't be everything to everybody, but I think we've put a framework together that says, think about kind of what we're discussing here and how this could make things a little easier for you. Because yeah, volunteering, man, takes a lot of time, a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And really in the end, it's like, I want to sign up. I know I got to make some payments. Then I just need to be aware of what's going on and communicated to, as a parent. On the other side, can the admins do that in a fashion that saves them enough time and makes it easy enough to schedule these events? Because now, again, you got your team, but you probably got a group of goalies on Wednesday nights to the morning, skates with a group. Can we push that information out all at once into a specific group or team instead of, okay, sign up, here's your group, then we're going to create a schedule over here in this file, and then we're going to send that to you via email. So you're going to have to go and like find that somewhere. If you make a mistake and we update it, now you're going to have to go find that. That ability to just push out events, whether it's in an app or whether it's, your Google or Outlook calendar. So it shows up, makes that stuff really, really easy. The updates that come, and then multiple kids. What a mess that is nowadays. Who's playing today at 8:00 and what rink am I on? I mean, my goodness gracious. I've seen this come a long way. I mean, growing up, one thing, playing another thing, then having kids. I mean, this is my youngest now is 18. So 18 years, add another 6. What the heck? Over 20 years of dealing with this. man, please make my life easier.
I hear you. I got 3 myself. They're not old yet, and they're not in too many activities yet, but I'm seeing that in the horizon, and I'm like, oh boy, thank God my wife is very organized. But yeah, things like this just make life so much easier. Well, Brian, we really appreciate your time here. This was awesome. If we can keep you for just another 5 minutes or so, what we do is we do a 10 questions, kind of a rapid fire kind of thing that we put in our Hockey Think Tank community. So for everybody that's listening, if you want to hear a little bit more from Brian, go to community.thehockeythinktank.com and you can hear the 10 questions. But this, man, like we look at impact when we have these conversations with people. I think this one's going to have a huge impact for everybody that listens, and it's going to be one of our most downloaded that we do. So appreciate your perspective, appreciate your time, and this was great.
Yeah, super fun. Really appreciate it.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.